Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. We are your hosts, Linda and Jim McKissick. If you know our story, you know that we went from over $600,000 in debt to having financial freedom. We share some of the insights and practical tips that we've learned over the last 30 years for achieving financial freedom, building wealth, and building an extraordinary life. Let's get started with today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Jim McKissick.
Hey, Jim.
And we have a super guest for us today.
We do. I'm super excited. This podcast is all about two average people, Jim and myself, who decided we want an extraordinary life. And the one way that we feel to do that is to create financial freedom in your life. And I think Jeremy Parker, who's with us today, feels somewhat of the same thing. Jeremy and I were on I don't even know what that was. We were on some kind of webinar.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure either.
Yeah, we were talking about this particular subject, and so I thought of you when we were putting guests together. So welcome, Jeremy Parker. And I always like to say you were born, and then what happened, Cliff Note version, of course. And then we'll talk about what you're doing to create financial freedom for your life and have an extraordinary life.
Okay. Well, I was born and the world didn't change at all. That's really basically how it is. But no, I was born in North Carolina, and had a pretty, standard suburban childhood in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. But it was a wonderful place to grow up. When my parents divorced when I was 14, that was my first jump into real estate. I got to house hunt with both of them separately, and had an absolute blast. And that was my first inclination that I had some sort of affinity for real estate. So then I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee in 2005 to attend the University of Tennessee, Knoxville there. And I graduated in 2009. Where I got then my first job as a solo commercial real estate agent in the Knoxville area with Coldwell Banker during the recession of 2009 and 10. So it was a brutal time, delivering pizzas from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then doing real estate from 9 to 2. It was daunting. So I got out of that, needless to say, got into the outdoor industry, outdoor retail, kayaking, trail running, rock climbing, those kinds of things. Moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee in 2012 to work for a company here doing that, and then found my way back into commercial real estate in 2017 at Keller Williams, and I have been here ever since, and have been a solo agent doing residential and commercial for the last 18 months or so. And that's Cliff Notes.
Awesome. I love it. Well, so let's talk about when did you decide financial freedom was important, that you wanted to create passive money? Or, how did that come about? How did you ever, a lot of times, Jeremy, when people are selling real estate, that's the last thing they think of, because quite honestly, they're trying to find houses for other people and just make cash flow. I always like to say they're walking over dollars to get to dimes, right?
That is very accurate.
So when was that decision made, and did you do it for a particular reason? Were you setting out to, have a different lifestyle? Were you just, what caused you to jump into the creating financial freedom for yourself?
I don't know that there was a specific necessarily event that occurred or like aha moment I really had. It was more just when I started to be around real estate more. So I worked in 2017 when I got back into real estate. I was working for the owner of the two Keller Williams franchises here in town. We call him the OP, operating principal. And she is a commercial agent, and she's also a real estate investor. And her parents, who we worked closely with, had 100 multifamily doors in Chattanooga. And I had just never really even been exposed to real estate investing before, which I think is a real shame. And I think it's one of those things that I got lucky in that I just kind of got into the real estate industry and was exposed to it that way. Otherwise, there's really not, it's one of those kind of things somebody has to tell you about it. You don't know it. I wish there were more classes in college or high school or something about real estate investing or just really investing in general, what to do with the money that you have to make it more money without just having it to come from your job. So the more money I saw coming to people from my office that was not from their job, it got piqued my curiosity. And so when I was ready to purchase my first home in 2017, and actually before that, the house I was living in, that I was renting, had a basement apartment that another person was renting. And I got the opportunity to purchase that. Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't able to, I was financially incapable. But I remember thinking, like, I bet that guy in the basement is we're covering all this guy's bills, and he's just riding high with this beautiful house in this great area. And then I really saw that, exponentially in my office. We have an office of about 400 here, and some really savvy real estate investors here. So just the more exposed I got to it, the more it was just put on my radar. And then in 2017, when I bought my first home, my realtor at the time, because I was still way too new to be able to know how to find my own house, she was a real estate investor, and she found a house off market for me with a basement apartment. And I walked downstairs and I was like, whoa, this is incredible. Like, it's a whole other living space. And I was like, I don't need it. I already have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath upstairs. This would be totally wasted square footage if I didn't do anything with it. Like, I'm not giving up anything to rent this out. And so I had a friend at the time who I was working in retail with, because I was still working retail part-time. And he needed a place to stay. And so he moved in to the basement apartment and lived there for 1.5 years and paid 3/4 of the mortgage. And I was like, whoa, like every time I would get that deposit, I was like, I wasn't used to seeing that much money being deposited into my account at one time every single month that wasn't coming from my job. I was like, this is an addition to my job. It's incredible. So yeah, that was the real beginning of that. So I kind of fell into it, and I still tell my realtor every day, who's a friend of mine, and that I thank her for that opportunity that she gave me. And so that money, I was still pretty secure with my job. So that money was not money that I needed to immediately spend. Mm-hmm. So I could see my bank account starting to fluff up a little bit. And that was the first real cue that this is the way outside of your job to be able to create opportunity for that you don't maybe not even know of yet. Mm-hmm. It's opportunity that you don't even necessarily have on your radar, but it gives you the opportunity to be ready for that when it does come. And that's what I liked about it. So fast forward, I end up then, because of that and my job, being able to purchase a cabin in the Sevierville area, which is outside the Great Smoky Mountain National Park in East Tennessee. And
now, how far away from that, Jeremy?
Go ahead.
How far away from where you live is that?
It's about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Okay.
So yeah, it's not immediately there, but it's a big market. Those short-term vacation rental cabins are a big thing out there. And I told my aunt when I was 8 years old, we were in a zoo. I've been into the outdoors my whole life. And I said, Aunt Karen, I want a cabin in the woods. And I was like, will you help me get a cabin in the woods? And so, 22 years later, I got my cabin in the woods, and it was a really proud moment for me, to be able to get that. And then, I didn't have the cash though at the time for the down payment. So my dad ended up helping me with that. So I got a parent involved, and he co-signed for me and allowed me that opportunity as well. And so that one is an operating Airbnb, and that really took off my opportunity for it's not passive income, because Airbnbs are active investments. Please don't get me wrong there.
Yeah, we have, how many do we have? 30 something?
30 something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I have a question.
You guys are saints. I don't know how you do that. I'm at 3 and I'm like, feel like I'm buried.
Hello. Thank you for listening to the Everything Life and Financial Freedom podcast. For transcripts, resources, and more, visit the episode page on the podcast website at everythinglifeandfinancialfreedom.com. You can also download our Freedom Number worksheet. This worksheet will help you determine the amount of passive income you need to generate each year to sustain the lifestyle you have or the lifestyle you want when you no longer wish to work or simply want the freedom of your time and your money. Well, and like we talked about before we started recording, you kind of have to make a decision, either go big so that you can leverage it out to other people, or like you said, 3 might be your max. But I have a couple of questions. How did you, people listening are going to say, man, I might want to do an Airbnb. How did you learn what all you do with an Airbnb? Did you just buy it and say, I'll figure it out? Or did you, how did you learn, okay, how am
I going to manage it?
How
am I going to furnish it? What do I need to furnish it with? Does the area attract Airbnbs in there, and what kind of rates do they rent for? All those questions.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning all of that. So that's one of the reasons I love it, is because you're constantly learning how to do it better. And there's innumerable resources out there, which can sometimes be a hindrance. A lot of times I get analysis paralysis, and there's so much information out there that it is, you can get overwhelmed and then end up either not doing any of it or taking bits and pieces, and you just have to put it together. But actually a realtor in the other Keller Williams office who owns cabins in that area, she represented me as my buyer's agent. And through that process, I was able to learn through her. Not only she helped me, make sure that what I was getting was a good deal, that it was able to cash flow, potentially. The lender that I decided to use was a local lender in the Sevierville area. She actually she's got like 15 or 20 cabins. So she was actually, and I developed a good rapport with her. And she would answer questions for me that had nothing to do with lending, but that had to do with the Airbnb itself. So for me, it was, instead of trying to go online and find a million different resources for that information, find the people that are already doing it, because they've already done most of the research for you. And then you just go to them and find good tips and tricks and things like that. So I got some, she gave me her listing. And so I was able to look at that, see what made sense, what I liked, what I could apply to mine. Those cabins are sold furnished a lot of times. So I didn't have to do a big furnished investment. Or furnishings investment. So that was, that made it a little bit easier for sure. And then also it was being currently run by a property management company, as a lot of those are out there. So I went onto their page and I looked up my own cabin, and I took a bunch of information off of their page. And I don't know if I was allowed to do that or not, but that told me a lot about how to market it, what to say about it, what I could charge for it. I just went on Airbnb, also looked at similar listings, and just saw what they were charging, looked at their calendars, see how available they were. That gave me kind of an occupancy rate, some sort of an idea. But really, even after all of that, most of it was just doing it, was just getting the listing online, pricing it low so that the inevitable mistakes that I was going to make were not as significant, because those guests weren't paying as much. So I thought, if I lower the prices, one, it will attract more people, and two, it'll get me some reviews and things like that. But then also somebody that's paying $75 a night for a beautiful cabin with a view isn't going to be as mad as if there's something missing or if there's something like that, you would hope. So a lot of it in the beginning was just trial and error.
I love it. So a couple of things I see already stands out that people need to pay attention to. Number one, who you hang out with matters. The people in your life before matter because they set the example for you that it could be done and that they were doing it and gave you hope that maybe you could do it someday. And as Jim and I started, because we were $600,000 in debt, we had to find people who would trusted in us and believed in us and partnered with us. And I don't know that your dad partnered, but he was willing to put up the money. So there's always someone out there that'll either partner with you or get a return on their investment, or out of love, probably in your dad's case, give you a leg up and a chance to go. And then with your banker and your realtor, nobody succeeds alone. Relationships matter. If you can find people, they'll give you the answers that you need. And then my last point that I really want to point out of what you said here is we learn in motion. We don't learn analysis paralysis, right? We learn in motion. And the best thing anybody can do is just get in motion because that's where you're going to learn most of the lessons.
Yeah.
The biggest issue that I've had with nightly rentals is the management part of it. If you can figure out the management side of it, you can usually make it work, and most management fees are anywhere between 20 and 40% of the gross revenue.
Yeah.
So it's not like a long-term rental where you can work a deal with a property management company for 7 to 10%. So you're looking at, and it's a lot more hands-on because of the cleanings and those kind of things that you have involved there. So how did you manage that? Did you find a property management company, or did you use maybe your realtors, cleaners to do your Airbnb?
Yeah, I think the cleaner that I ended up using was also the realtors. I can't quite remember that, but again, it's success through others. And so my cleaning company also has an in-house maintenance company, and they also contract on my behalf through third-party landscapers and pest control. So I pay them the monthly fees for the landscape, for the pest control, all of that, and then they pay the vendors. And when I have, and over the years, I've developed relationships with specific maintenance people for specific issues at the cabin. And so I've got that support system that if there's an issue with my hot tub, I know exactly who to text. He knows me. If I need, a bear cage made for my trash bins, I know I have a company who can do that. If I have, I've got plumbers, all those kinds of people, just like you would your regular house. But being 2.5 hours away, you really have to develop good relationships with those people. But the cleaning company, it's all integrated. So their calendar integrates with my Airbnb
You have a website
calendar.
for your Airbnbs?
What's that?
You have a website for your Airbnbs?
Or for your vacation
Or
rentals?
for your vacation rentals?
I don't have a personal website for them. No, I just have them on the platform. And I know there's a lot more opportunity to do that, to do direct bookings, to market the properties more. I know there's more opportunity, and I'll certainly look into that more as I am looking at building a cabin again with my dad next door to this one, to have two next to each other and be able to use those for larger parties and bookings and things like that.
That happens.
But yeah, they're a great company out there. So they've been huge in my success in that regard.
Yeah. And for anyone who's interested, maybe even you, Jeremy, we'll be having a podcast with the girl that manages all of our 30-something vacation rentals on how to get 5-star reviews, because she's done a phenomenal job of getting 5-star reviews.
We've actually created our own property management company that we own up in Branson. And so we're in properties, and we're just now getting to where we're managing other people's properties also.
Yeah. I've been asked to do that from folks because I'm a member of the MLS out in the Smokies area as well. So I sell cabins out there. I've learned so much about that industry that I actually started an arm of my real estate business out there. But so, yeah, those management companies are huge huge industry out there.
Yeah. And that's where, honestly, that's where a lot of money, there's a lot of money in
There's
that
a lot
business.
of money made out there in the management side.
Okay. So as we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit more. Now you talked about diversifying into a duplex. And I'm interested, you started in the commercial world. Do you have any interest in, creating wealth and passive income through commercial properties? I know you're doing a duplex.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind diversifying for you, and what are your plans moving forward on creating more wealth and passive income? What do you think is on the radar for you?
Yeah, I definitely want to diversify. At the end of the day, Airbnbs, for the most part, are reliant on disposable income, on an economy where folks have the money to be able to travel and spend more than a lot of times they would at a hotel. So as we've seen, the pandemic, I mean, that was something that really affected the short-term vacation rental industry for a long period of time. So I did purchase another one here on a mountain outside of Chattanooga for Airbnb. But now I'm under contract for a duplex that will be long-term rentals. And so, those are kind of economy proof a lot of times. A lot of times the worse the economy is, the better rentals perform. Mm-hmm. So that is a good balance there, I think, to be able to diversify. And really my MO is to continue to put myself in a financial position that allows me to be able to pull the trigger on opportunity as soon as it comes. Mm-hmm. So my outlook, I don't necessarily have a goal of adding a certain number of doors or adding a specific type of property. Luckily for me, I'm in real estate every single day. And so, I've looked at purchasing some of my listings before they go live, those kinds of things. So my big thing is just have a lender that I know that knows and trusts me and can run with me quickly, and just have the ability financially to be able to pull the trigger when opportunity does come. This duplex, I happened to meet a wholesaler from a Facebook marketing or Facebook investment group here locally, and never done a deal with a wholesaler in my life, but he presented an opportunity for some doors in a part of town that I live that I specifically wanted to invest in, that was very expensive and I couldn't find anything in. And he said, "Hey, I've got this duplex, and we came up with a fantastic price. He assigned me the contract, and now hopefully in the next 30 days, I'll have that opportunity." So just leaving myself open, having the money, saved from the other properties to be able to, like I said, pull the trigger on opportunity quickly.
Yeah,
you and eventually down the road, definitely.
Just about have to do that, don't you?
What's that?
I said, with the good deals, you just about have to be able to.
Absolutely. You got to be ready quickly. Yeah. Yep. You really do. And so, but down the line, definitely looking into some commercial, that takes a little bit more of a financial investment on the front end. And open to partnerships. So if I hear, any of that kind of stuff, if you put it out there that you're open for opportunity will find you. And that's what's been happening to me. And so I'm a firm believer in it, and just continue to position myself to be ready for it.
Yeah, great advice. And I agree. I feel like once you're in the game, you see opportunities that you didn't see when you weren't in the game. You have to be 100%. In the game. But once you're in, it's never a lack of opportunities. It's a lack of your ability to pull the trigger on that opportunity. Well, Jeremy, thank you. We appreciate your time today. One final question. I think you kind of gave a little bit of advice, but if you have any further advice that you'd give people about why you think it's important for people to work on creating financial freedom, and any great books or podcasts or any great things that have helped you kind of keep this mindset that you've listened to or read lately.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge reader, but I love to have conversations with people. And so that's really my MO, is seek out folks that I know that are doing what I want to be doing, and take them to lunch, take them to dinner, have them for coffee. I learn more by having conversations with people personally than I do from books. I know I need to get better about that, and I do have a goal of looking more, but to me, it's easier for me and also create, like, there's a book called Tax-Free Wealth that I have started
Great
reading.
book.
That's a fantastic book. But also my bookkeeper is really good at those kinds of tax strategies and those sort of that maneuverability. So I'm going to learn a lot from him as well. So having conversations with him, having that relationship is really important. Finding the people that are doing what you want to do, and seek them out. And then, again, these properties allowed me the biggest impact to my life. They allowed me to feel comfortable going in as a real estate agent full-time with no guaranteed salary. But I felt comfortable doing that because I knew that even if I didn't work for a year, the properties fund my life. They cover my bills. They cover all of that. So even if I didn't work, I could get by. And so it gave me the opportunity to be in an industry that I absolutely love. And so that's the biggest impact that investing has made for me, is just that ability to control my own schedule, life, decisions. It's been amazing.
Awesome. Love it. So thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate your time today. Jim, I guess I'll see you in a few minutes, because we are not that far apart.
That's right.
All right. Jeremy, you have a great day. And
Jeremy, we thank you
you
very much and appreciate your knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this podcast with others. The greatest compliment you can give us is to leave a 5-star review, and please feel free to reach out to us at info@lindamckissick.com. We would love to hear from you about any ideas, topics, or guests to include on our podcast. So see you next time.